Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be looking at something a little bit different. This Masters of the Universe Battleground starter set.
Gruffy Crow.
Okay, this was bought yesterday by a good friend of mine, Darren, in the Norfolk Board Games, War Games and Collectibles store in Great Yarmouth. A fantastic little store full of second-hand minis and awesome stuff from sort of bolt action and a bunch of smaller war games and stuff. Strongly recommend checking them out if you find yourself in Great Yarmouth. But while we were there, we saw this and we'd kind of been talking about it, and my mate decided to pick it up. It was £75. And it is a heavy old box. It's got some size to it. What's that? A 17.5-inch box. That's, yeah, it's reasonable. And my friend has asked me to get this all built up and possibly even painted, and then we can try and have some games of it. So I thought it'd be interesting to unbox it for you guys and show you what's in here if you've seen it, if you're interested. So what have we got so far? Got a picture of the minis that we're in here. So we've got terrain, we've got cards, we've got battle board. That all looks pretty cool. Before I go too much further, I do already have one mini from this that will be getting its own video. We've got a special edition Skeletor that was released as part of this sort of, I don't know, run up to this. And this is a sort of resin mini, or a resin cast of a 3D print. And it is a lovely mini. As I said, this will get its own video, so you'll see that at some point. I'm also having murder trying to film this because my light obviously is reflecting quite badly on this cellophane. So let's get rid of the cellophane. It's a nice box. We've got sort of matte sections and then shiny sections where the minis are. It's not very sturdy though, quite a thin card. So it's not like a nice thick box that you'd want to sort of reuse over and over. It's yeah, a little bit flimsy. Oh, one of those nice toppers. Let's see. And we've got a lot of sprues here. So it looks like we've got one sprue each for the goodies and the baddies. I've seen these online and I've spent some time sort of looking at them, and all the pieces appear to be really jumbled up. So we'll definitely have to be looking at some instructions to get these put together, I think. But first glance, I'd say the details look good. Nice looking minis. Now we have the terrain sections, and there's actually more of this than I thought there'd be. And this is weighty stuff. This is a hard plastic, but it seems it's got a bit more flex in it. It reminds me of some of the cheaper bits of terrain that Games Workshop have done in the past, like the original Azerite Ruins box. And it's got some good detail, but I don't think it's holding as much detail as these sprues. And it's got a different sort of sound. It's a bit more sort of, because that's got the sort of standard hard plastic sound. A bit different. That's cool. We've got a little ladder. Oh, I think this is some sort of tower part, so this might make a little double layer thing. So it doesn't, I can't remember seeing that on the front of the box. Got another divider. Oh, and we have tokens. So this is all cellophaned together. The hexes are smaller than I thought. So the bases of these guys appears to be the sort of standard 25mm. So these hexes are probably not a lot bigger than that. Yeah, they're 25mm as well. So that's, yeah, smaller hexes than I expected. So you've got a lot more hexes on the board. I'm probably going to leave these cellophaned up for now. Because we've got a nice board, we've got a nice sort of double ply thickness thing which folds out. It's got cool printing on it. Kind of reminds me of the old animation, that kind of art maybe. So not super detailed, but nice and non-distracting. And I think that's quite good. You can see the hexes quite well, because they've used, yeah, white and black. I'm guessing this is a sort of a deployment zone. Oh, here we go. We've got grid references as well. That could be useful. And it looks like a nice quality piece. And yeah, as I said, we've got a lot of tokens and even some sort of range rulers here, which could be quite interesting. And presumably all the tokens you need to get the game played. We've got 2 packs of these little Diddy Items cards. These are quite cute little things. Nice layouts. As Darren, who this belongs to, commented, it's kind of like a retro card layout almost. sort of reminiscent of sort of like 90s Pokemon cards or something. I quite like that. And they look like nice quality card in there. Probably open one of these packs to have a look. Some pretty naff dice, but you don't often get much better in a box game like this. We've got 2 weapon cards, and then 2 packs of fake cards. Get quite a lot of fake cards. Oh, and I'm assuming these are the weapons cards for the goodies and the baddies. Less keen on the art on these ones, if I'm honest. Okay, so this is the weapons cards. Nothing special. Sort of mid-range playing card type sort of texture. If you're going to get a massive lot of use out of this, it might be worth sleeving them because they're just sort of standard card, so they could be creased fairly easily. We've got some more of those sort of cool designed art pieces, so for all your different weapons. And we've got some character cards here as well for the characters you've got in the box. Whereas these have got weapon card icons on the back, these have got pretty cool pictures of your characters. So yeah, I prefer that hand-drawn looking art to the sort of almost computer-generated art on the other side. Oh, quick note about that miniature I showed at the beginning. That one's actually for a game called Fields of Eternia. So I've just looked at the card, and that says, so that's a different game, but it's the same make, and it appears to be the same scale, but we can double check that in a sec. So this company are making a few Master of the Universe products. This claims to be a board game, whereas this is more of a skirmish game, I think. I quite like this sort of divider thing we've got going on here. It shows you room for all your cards and everything. That could be quite useful for reusing the box. And then underneath, we've got, here we go, a whole bunch of stuff. So this was mentioned at the store we were at. You get a limited edition model if you win a tournament at the local gaming store. And there we go, there's that bit of terrain that wasn't on the box cover, the sort of double layer thing. And so there's a little link down there about some more information about that. So I'll throw that in the description. So here we've got what appears to be the rule book. Mentioning interestingly that it's a sort of living game, they're going to sort of develop it as they go. Some layouts for the board with where the terrain all goes, it's quite cool. And a character sheet. So not a lot in there for that. So this could just be the layout book. Here we go, here's the miniatures assembly book, this is the one we're interested in. And then yeah, we've got standard sort of miniature assembly instructions, codes and sort of little diagrams. And then we have it again, there's that bit of terrain, the only bit that appears to need to be assembled. So we'll leave that one out for now. Here we go, here's a rule book, and this is a bit weightier. Still not hugely thick. List of contents, so like we said, we've got the characters, cards, quite a lot of terrain, tokens, rulers. That seems quite cool. Instructions on how you do a first setup, and all the things you'd expect, rules for moving and interacting, and even rules for using sort of larger models that aren't included in the box. So they have kind of thought ahead as well, so it's not just limited to what's in the box. Not much art or anything, but once again we've kind of got that sort of computer generated cell shaded type one, which I'm less bothered by. But yeah, I think that's the only art in there. So we'll pop that back in there as well. So yeah, that looks like a nice set of bits and pieces, and I'm very interested to play the game. Unfortunately, you won't get any kind of review on how the game plays or any of that in this video. But if you are interested, let me know in the comments, and I'll certainly try and get a battle report and a review out getting this game played, because I am keen to give it a go. So I think my next thing to do is going to be to sort of build up this terrain, get it sprayed, get it painted, and I'll be using the exact same sort of paint schemes I used for my Azurite ruins, and then just additionally painting some more of these details. And we've got some cool bits, we've got sort of castle interiors there, some sort of technological bits, and here we've got some sort of vines and things. Could be all interesting bits to pick out. I'm interested initially how easy this is to take off the frames. Like I said, once again, this really reminds me of that sort of slightly cheaper looking Games Workshop stuff. some just similar sort of tough plastic. So yeah, that was a little bit of a struggle to get off the frame. So a lot of connection points and quite tough plastic. Quick note, it appears to be manufactured in the EU, so I quite like that. It's nice to see that everything has to come from China. It is sort of hard plastic and there's plenty of flex as well. But these pieces, they are chunky, that is sturdy. I don't think there's anything you could do to really damage or break that. And I think this terrain is probably fairly useful. You could certainly get use out of this, even though it's got the hex bottoms. But even if you weren't using a hex grid, I think this would look great for something like Frostgrave or even Stargrave with all the sort of sci-fi bits. It's good, just good blocking terrain. And the start of a sort of interesting little dungeon. So I wonder if they do expansions to this, I might be tempted to grab a couple of boxes if they do it standalone, just to use as sort of, yeah, blocking wall terrain. Cool, so we'll get all that snipped off. I'll not show you the painting to this, so if you want to see how I paint that, check out my Azurite Ruins video, but it's just going to be dry brush with greys basically. So for the purpose of this video, this is probably the last thing I'm going to look at. Put baddies out of the way. And let's put He-Man together. Just got my instructions over here. And I want B5 and B6. And yeah, this is just, that was my first cut into this, and that is a lot softer plastic than the terrain's made out of. And I'm just going to nip a little bit of this sprue off, just to do a test. So I don't want to just go ahead with this polystyrene cement, assume that it's going to do the job. Let's do a quick test. Oh, feels good already. Oh yeah, there's no problems there. That's definitely melting that down. So that's good to know. I do prefer building models with this stuff rather than super glue. Also, while I'm playing around with this bit of sprue, we've got my knife here. I'm going to just get a feel for how. So that scrapes nicely. Yeah, look at that. It's going to be an absolute joy to clean up. We've got some mould lines, so let's see if we can pick it up on camera. Just running around there. But very gentle scrape there and it's cleaned up. And they've put the sprue connection point in a nice, easy to clean up area as well. But the quality and the mould alignment look good. They're not the most detailed minis. We'll have a look at that when I've built it actually. And this is my recommendation for plastic glue, by the way. You can pick stuff up in Hobbycraft or off eBay. It's my favourite. One interesting thing is that obviously the original toys used the same moulds often for the chests and the waists and legs and things. Obviously that's kind of followed through into these miniatures. So without the instructions, you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between this sort of furry loincloth and this furry loincloth. Obviously there's a fair share of furry loincloths on the baddies side as well. So yeah, it's kind of a funny little quirk of the sort of Master Universe uniform that everyone wears big furry pants, I guess. So this is our next piece here. This is just a little chest guard. Could do with slightly sharper snips, I think. And that is fitting together just really snugly. No need for any fill-in or gaps, that's just perfect. So yeah, once again talking to the quality of the miniatures there. So this is definitely an interesting kit to put together for just one character. We've had parts from over here, here and here, which is why when I was looking at this online, it's kind of confusing to try and see, you know, what characters and where they are on the sprue. So that's the arms on, once again minimal fuss, a little bit fiddly, but once you got them in place, basically all the lines and joins completely disappear. So they've been sliced quite creatively, so it goes around the muscles and everything. And I like the fact we've got some of these nice detailed bases for them to stand on. I won't need to add any extra texture or anything like that on there. I think that'll paint up quite nicely. And they've always got these little forward sort of arc markers as well, which is a cool idea. And he's got little dimples on his feet that fit perfectly into this base. I think the arm's cured enough now that we can then just the tiniest amount of glue just pop on that shield, and once again that fits really nicely. Okay, so that's our first mini all built up. And I said it's not the crispest hard plastic mini I've ever seen, but it is a nice mini. I quite like the pose, the sort of style of it. It's got quite strong sort of cartoony details, which for a mini based on a sort of animation, that makes a lot of sense. But it looks modern, looks fresh. I think, just quickly looking at it, it's going to be quite a good time to paint as well. Just going to grab some minis to compare them to scale wise. So this is a North Star Revenant. They're pretty standard for the sort of North Star range plastics. And he's quite a bit shorter, so if we sort of compare foot to foot, he is, yeah. But this is He-Man after all. Sort of detail and sort of looks-wise, it's not terrible. Here's a North Star metal model. Actually, way more comparable. Here's a Victrix Shaman off their Chariot kit. And that's actually very similar. Once again though, it's kind of fitting that whole 20mm scale quite well. And here is a Sigmarine. So he actually stands taller than one of the early Sigmarines. Obviously a lot slimmer. So it gives you an idea a bit of the size. So I'm going to get the rest of these all built up, and I'll let you know if I run into any quirks, and we'll take a look at what they all look like stood together. Okay, I've just spent a couple of hours getting all this snipped out, and we started to clear up this terrain. And it's not taking too long individually to get them from sort of here, sort of freshly snipped off, to here, where hopefully after a spray you'll not see the gaps. I've also been taking my knife and just widening some of these edges, just to sort of bring the definition out of the stones, where sometimes, like this one, where the mould's kind of made it a bit more shallow there. As you can see, there is a whole bunch of these walls. These are great. I said I'm still a big fan of these. If they would sell these separately, I'll probably pick some up. And I'm expecting they're going to do some sort of expansion, or they've certainly left room for it, because these slots on the top of these, which I didn't think much of to start with, are where there's 2 of these included. Basically there's 2 of everything, and there's 2 sets of the sprues. And the book, I think, he shows this one as the example, and you can slot that in there. As you can see, that all lines up. I'm not going to glue any of these, I think better to keep them clear, but even this sort of more ruined one, actually I almost think that looks better on there. And then these ladders, I guess, denote the access, fit neatly within the sort of grid, which is kind of cool. For the minis, I think Skeletor was the fiddliest. His little shoulder pads were all separate pieces, and his sword was separate. And they were a little bit fiddly to put together. Certainly not a beginner's kit, really. I would say I'm relatively experienced putting plastic kits together. And yeah, I find them a little bit fiddly. Not to the same level as Malifaux models, for instance, or some of the more fiddly sort of Games Workshop kits potentially, but certainly not sort of just pushed together 2 parts. I said, look at the models like this. They look great. They look quite finely detailed. They look sort of comic cartoon accurate. They're nice, sort of recognisable sculpts. Said Merman was always one of my favourites when I was a kid, sort of just visually. I think I mentioned earlier that I thought the detail wasn't maybe as crisp as it could be. So what I did with this guy, this is obviously He-Man, and I just gave him a quick dusting of grey primer. As you can see, all of a sudden that looks like a very good mini. See if I can pick up some of those shield, the wood grain underneath the metal. Absolutely stunning detail. So I think the colour and the reflection on the plastic sort of hides how good the detail on these guys actually is. Because that's really top notch. I can't fault that at all. So this is probably as far as I'm going to do with this kit for this video. What I will say is from the components, so it was at 75 quid, but you've got the 10 minis. I would say that Games Workshop would probably charge you more than £7.50 for each one of these. Said they are, as I said, pretty nice minis. Bunch of terrain. I said that if the board game turns out to be terrible, this is certainly usable in a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's nice. These are nice, sturdy, quality bits. Nothing's ever going to happen to them. Oh, and while I'm there, these bits have beveled edges on the sides, which match up with the sides of the hexes. So you can make sort of what's that, like 45-degree angled walls and stuff, which I think makes them a little bit more flexible and interesting as well. As for the rest of the components, I think the cards could probably be better quality, and the dice were a bit naff, but there's certainly nothing wrong with them as far as the sort of the printing and you know, they're just sort of standard quality. And D6s are easily replaced if you want something a bit more interesting, or so I'd probably go for something a little bit larger normally. And as we glanced at earlier, the main token and battle map boards certainly seem to be very chunky, good construction. And I know that the cuts are nice on them as well, because even while just moving this around, the tokens are just popping straight out of there, which is nice to see. Which is one of the reasons why I haven't taken it out of the cellophane. So all in all, I said I can't comment on the game yet. Hopefully, if you guys are interested, let me know in the comments, and I'll see if I can get a little battle report of it put together. But just from the component parts and what I think of it, I said I think it's worth the money, and it seems like a really interesting kit, and I can't wait to get some paint on these guys. And as I said, watch out for the Skeletor video from the related game. Just point out he is also on a 25mm base, and he appears to be essentially the same sculpt for Skeletor, so they do scale. So yeah, keep an eye out for me painting this guy, and let me know if you want to see me painting any of these other models, and as I mentioned, the battle report. And as anyone else had an eye on this and interested in picking it up, I'll stick links to in the description, like I said, to the website, and also to North Star military figures. So if you can't make it down to Great Yarmouth, you can pick this up from North Star, and I'll leave a link for that as well. So as I said, let me know what you think. And that's all for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments. Maybe subscribe for more. And as ever, thanks for watching. Bye.